My name is Jason Williams, aka JP Slouch, also known as Broom. I've been making music since I was a kid. I think around 8 years old, and it's my passion. Along the way, I've met up with some pretty interesting characters, all with their own unique stories, views, and talents. This podcast show celebrates those friends I've amassed in my many years of ups and downs, in this crazy trip that we all call life. Join me as I go 4 drinks deep with JP Slouch and PALS. Wait, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Calculator, I got
Oh, put it. All right. Oh, hold on. Dude, what's up, man?
Not much. What are you up to?
Getting 4 drinks deep. You know how I usually do. How about you? What are you drinking? What are you sipping on?
I didn't open it yet, but I thought I'd do it for this.
What is it?
Is it Tecate?
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
It was you remember Chon, right?
Of course.
He watched our place.
He watched your place?
Yeah,
You trusted Sean McClary to watch your place?
Oh yeah, he did a great job. He was great. Like basically he just took Babs the whole time and so which is the perfect person we need for it. But anyway, one time his mom visited and she loves beer. And she left a fridge full of Tecate.
Oh, there you go. So that's the plus of having Sean being a house sitter. You get a lot of Tecates.
Yeah, and I haven't had a single one yet. So this is my first.
There you go. There you go. Well, Mike, welcome to 4 Drinks Deep. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
My name is Michael Mersereau. I am an artist, musician, filmmaker. I also have jobs that revolve around museums. I also teach sometimes, and I am also a good friend of yours and do music with you too. Well, it's been a while, but we still do it.
It's been too long, man. Like every band that I was in with you was like some of the funnest bands I think I've ever been in, man. Like I was remembering, I was actually I was having a conversation with Sean, Sean McDonald. The reason I think that's how we met, right? Didn't we meet through Sean at like Woodside, I want to say? Like,
yeah, it was through Sean in high school.
Yeah, I remember we had Woodside and everything and going through. But I remembered you as always like a guy that was like one of the most artistic people I've ever met. Like when I first met you, you had like this crazy hat. You're going through the hippie phase. And like you had this crazy hat, a shirt called Ritual Lizard and everything.
No, it said Ritual Lizard on the hat because I thought Jim Morrison was awesome.
Yeah, well, dude, totally. Like, when I met you, you were like, totally, you got me into like insane bands. Like, tell me, like, what were you into at that time? And did that have anything to do with like the artistic value that you had? Because you were straight up doing like insanely great music when I first met you. So like, what's your musical, like, how did you get started with music? Were you also doing it really young as well? Or like,
I was doing it. Well, before I started doing like, obviously I like the Doors a lot, but before that I was in the glam metal, like when I was like 11 or 12 or something like that, like embarrassingly awful glam metal. And then who was it? Oh, it was a cousin of mine. He gave me a Bauhaus tape, a
Ooh,
Bauhaus
yes.
single. And so I got that, and then I started listening to the Velvet Underground and more like the glam rock of the 70s, T-Rex, all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't into punk yet, but still, I was on the edges. The Stooges, listening to that.
Like
So
so basically, like I said, I think we met through Sean and school.
pretty sure.
And I knew that you were like one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my lives, man, because you were like your art, your music you did at the time, like everything you were doing was amazing. And I was just like, oh man, it would be amazing to like start a band with this guy, right? And so I remember me and you, we were jamming. I think it was at your parents' house. I remember it was me and you did a bass line. You wanted to call it Slobber.
Was that how it went?
Yeah,
I believe you.
Do you remember that, or was it just one of my things?
There's a lot of stuff that got erased because of a certain time in my life. But so when something
We're gonna go into that later. The certain time in your life that erased stuff.
But when something like that comes up, I believe you over.
Well, then I will say it because I remember it like it was like yesterday. Like it was like a bass line you were coming up with. It was called Slobber, right? And we were trying to figure out a name of a band and what we would call it, and that's ultimately where the name Slobber came from. From that bass line that you were coming up with. It was like a really like kind of bass line. And you wanted to call it Slobber.
But I still was learning how to play.
Probably. Yeah. Exactly.
So it probably was just a description.
Well, Well, how do you remember it?
I remember you and me, and I remember asking Dave to play drums. And somebody knew Dave. I don't know maybe you knew Dave.
I could tell you the story, but I want to hear what you remember. That's the thing about Slop. We always got to remember like in different ways. But with you, the thing that I love the most though about like the whole thing of like jamming with Slobber and everything was not only your crazy bass lines, but also your insane lyrics that you came up with. Like there's songs like "When the Pope Masturbates," right? I like people. You know what I mean? Like insane stuff. Like how? Like what is your? Did you just like take stuff from your past and put it in songs, or was it like you heard songs that like influenced you? Because a lot of songwriters have a different way of putting music into like an art form out in the public. Like what's your process on how you would do that?
I sometimes put myself in the songs, but as a whole, even back then and still now, I like to find a point of view that's a character and then write the song from that character. So like right now, or at least in the past like 20, 15 years maybe, what I would do is I would like watch a movie and I'd be like, oh, this is a good scene. I'm going to write a song about this character in this scene. Because, no one wants to hear. Imagine like you're with somebody and then they're watching you play and they're listening to your breakup song from the person before. And then on and on it goes, and like, depending on who you are, that could be like 20 breakup songs,
I think the Feldmans was that pretty much.
Yeah, because you imagine just going to your partner and going, no, this is, you won't ever have a song like this about you.
See, I've been lucky enough to have my partners not like any of my music at all, so they never listen to it. No, but I like that idea. You're saying you take the role of a character that you like. Where do you get the characters from? Is it something that you've seen like through your own everyday life, or is it something that you've seen like get inspirata from like TV or shows or anything?
Movies.
Like, for example, like, can you give me an example of one like one song that you took from a movie, the example, and how you would do it?
So there was this song I wrote when I was, well, I still do this project called 18 frames per second. and I based it off of a character in Guillermo del Toro's Devil's Backbone. So it's just like based on this one specific character having a dialogue with somebody.
That's
But
awesome.
it was just kind of that little part. And I lost the song, so I'm just gonna have to rewrite them.
What was that? What was the song from? Was it a particular band or just the regular song you're doing on your own?
Just when I was doing it on my own. Yeah, I had 18 frames per second. I did a live show once with Dante and Sean playing as back. Oh, and Darcy also in it.
Yeah, you were also, didn't you do anticore? I think was another type thing you were into. It was like I remember for me, it was one of the first like real noise projects that I heard out there. It was just like insanely blasting your ears with like insano crazy music with good samples and everything like that. You were one of the first like dudes I knew that was like collaborating with other people. One that I never even knew of, like Paul and Paul Barfo. You had like Sean McDonald. You had Mike DeVita. You know, a bunch of different people you were doing like these noise compilations and stuff with. Like, how'd you go from hippie to punk to noise, or like what was that like the transformation like and everything, and what was going on to make it go that way?
The hippie to punk part was pretty quick. And, I was like a teenager, right? And I think the thing that really put it in is, just being a suburban teenager hanging out with other hippies in high school. And I remember I was hanging out with these like two hippies. And then I said something about how I felt the world was. And they're like, oh man, that's way too negative. Nothing should be like that. And then I knew immediately. I was like, oh, this world's not for me. All right. I'm leaving this thing. But anyway, so that kind of developed into, the angst of being young into punk. And then I got into cassette culture. And I think that's where I met a lot of extra people. And it was like you'd make a cassette just with noise, or Paul Barfo, he was in the Barfos with his brother. And I think I got to know him through cassettes, actually, because I was, when you used to mail out cassettes, everybody would like put in a ton of little tiny flyers into the cassette that they sent to you. And I remember a couple times when I looked at it, and like there was like was it Santa Clara or Campbell? Campbell.
Yeah, I think, weren't you a part of the what was it, the Sunnyvale Music Club, correct?
Yeah, but
I think, isn't that how you met Paul? I think it was through that, no?
Yeah, it was, but it was through a cassette. I saw his band through a cassette that I had traded with on a flyer. And I was like, oh my God, there's this dude that's making weird noise that's actually only like a half-hour drive from me. It was this whole culture of like, you would make like, I don't know, you'd have like a noise band like with anticore, like me and Sean had, for instance. And we'd make a cassette and I'd do a run of like 30 of them. And then you would do crazy art packaging for them. And then, you would send them to like, I don't know, there was like some guy in Croatia who I would send it to, and you put all the little flyers in for all the stuff you have for your label. And then I would order something. Or like, for instance, I ordered something from Brazil, and that's how I got to know some guy in San Carlos, because his flyer was in this Brazil noise band's flyer. And that dude was just like right next to me. And so it was just like these weird little things. And it was a very like art-based kind of movement.
That's awesome. Yeah, and man, like I remembered it was really like insanely cool. Like you were always the one, like I always felt like you were always like the art when it came to the music, like it was like,
well, don't you think that it's just kind of thinking about it, like working with you two, is just that we're into a weird thing, but in a different way?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like it's like finding out. Yeah, it's like bouncing ideas off each other, seeing what's there and all. It's like very, very cool. And that's the thing. You're always like in collectives, and that's how we met a lot of people. Through the things that you went into, like the music clubs and all that. I felt bad, and I had the conversation with Sean recently about how someone got pushed through a fire door or something like that during a show, and they blamed you for that on there because
it was because I was the person that organized the show.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was the Sunnyvale Music Club. That was at the library, if you remember.
I don't.
Oh, well, you were there. What was it? Oh, okay. And then who was it? We got the was it the Donnas that were gonna play?
They were the Electrocutes at the time.
Yeah, Electrocutes or Raggedy Ann. I can't remember.
Well, yeah, maybe Raggedy Ann. Maybe yeah.
Yeah, it was one iteration of what they were. And I forget who else. There's a flyer of it somewhere. I know Paul has a flyer for it. But what had happened is things just started to kind of escalate. And the second Dante started lighting the curtain on fire.
Oh yeah, it can't be a show unless Dante is doing some like lighting something on fire.
Yeah, he lit something on fire. The whole thing just kind of, and then it just turned into people like throwing chairs, and it was like what was the best way to describe it? A white boy suburban riot that just.
So actually, before I change topic, I want to ask you about Bel Mateo, the song Bel Mateo. Can you tell me what that is all about?
Bel Mateo is that weird little spot between Belmont and San Mateo. And I think it's actually not even a real place. I think there was just a place called Bel Mateo there. And I always found it really weird that it was a place where between the two cities that didn't seem to really have anything. Like to go to houses, you had to go way up into the hills, right? And then there was a train station, and there wasn't really any houses kind of east of the tracks at all. So it was just a strange, you know what? Bel Mateo was the limbo of the peninsula.
The limbo. So it's like the nothing.
Or the purgatory even. You know?
Awesome. Yeah, no, I just remember, like I said, songwriting was always like a key for you. And it was a bummer when, Slobber was done and all that. But then there was like a period of time where like you kind of disappeared. I didn't see, like I went from seeing you hella to like not seeing. So during that period when, after England and all that, right, where we did the England tour, which I thought was fun.
I had a really good time too. There's parts where I didn't, but as a whole, like let me put it this way. It was a life-changing experience. Oh, well, we got super sick twice. Do you remember?
The worst sick I've ever been. I probably had COVID. I probably created COVID when I was in.
That's what I feel like too. I feel like we created some new version of a SARS variation.
Seriously.
The Omni before there was Omni. And the Omni Alpha, perhaps. And I don't know if that means anything.
Omni Alpha. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Makes sense.
It's like O, and is Omni O? Or anyway, it doesn't matter. What I remember just being super delusional because of those. We had to walk through the streets with like high fevers and stuff. And it was just so strange. And then when we were it wasn't Scotland, we were in Leeds, but we were in a place where I still couldn't understand people. I remember.
Liverpool was my worst, trying to understand people in Liverpool. That was like insane.
Leeds was the hardest for me, not Liverpool. Yeah, and of course, I had that super bad fever. I was so sick, and this guy was talking to me, and it sounded like German. And I was just like nodding my head. I can't remember if we played a show or not. It was the most strangest experience. And then I remember at the end, like the very last day, we were all like slinking our way to the airport. And I think I was still sick because Sean had to go back and like just walk with me so I didn't lose everybody. because everybody's just ready to go home. Like they were just ready. But I would say like 70% of it was a great time. Well, there was a thing with my relationship too.
Well,
Like,
yeah, I did see. Yeah, yeah.
like that kind of made things a bit more murky. And then I just started to kind of like disappear into clubland. I think that was also a main thing.
So that's what I was gonna get at. So you went to Clubland. Tell me more about Clubland.
No, when we came back, Sean and I did Cliffs and Bridges. So we're like, hey, we're going to start a goth band. Now, Cliffs and Bridges was totally not a goth band. It was a pop band, but we thought we were doing goth, and it's goth-ish. Yeah. Like that New Order goth-ish, post Joy Division.
And from what I remembered, Cliffs and Bridges, that was the name because that's things where people threw themselves off of.
Things you could jump off of.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So a very positive start for the band.
Yeah. But, we know a lot of people that have jumped off of bridges and run off of cliffs. So it wasn't necessarily a total.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it was like still, it wasn't just a cynical thing. It was actually like an honest thing as well, and thinking about I don't know, I don't know how many people but I know 3 people that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, that I've lost count. I stopped I stopped trying to keep count.
Yeah, that's probably for the better. I mean, I know people who went other ways, but
yeah. With Cliffs and Bridges, it was a very more dark. Although your writing was slobber and the Noise Projects was very like dark, but then it got even more dark with Cliffs and Bridges. Do you think it was like?
I would say that maybe of the most personal work I've done would have been with Cliffs and Bridges. I think we were writing breakup songs. It was just a huge row of breakup songs. After I had just said, like, don't write songs. But, like, it was like, I don't know, 13 breakup songs?
Mm-hmm. Out of Cliffs and Bridges, what was one that resonated with you at that time that would say, yeah, that's Cliffs and Bridges, that's that time?
I would put it more to a feeling. Like they're like with many of the songs, and you can actually go. Sean's released a few, and there's just a feel. There's kind of a topographic, architectural feel to the music, and I think that was one of the pieces, or one of the things that like is more imbued with my own emotional experiences than other things I've done.
You said that it was all a mood. Mm-hmm. It was all a mood and everything with that, which was like the time period. And from what I remember during that time period, you were modeling for Sony.
No, it wasn't Sony.
What was that then?
Oh, no, you're right. It was Sony, but it was for this, like cell phone, like a Palm Pilot kind of thing that you.
And I will find that picture. But that's crazy. Like, tell me, like, how, one, did you get involved with that? And then 2, I heard that you were married at one time to a supermodel. Is that true?
No. She was a fashion designer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 3, what were you doing like artistically during that time? Because I know you were always a great, amazing painter. From what I met you were always doing some kind of art, doing everything. You started taking your art to a different kind of medium at that time, from what I realized. What was the reason why? I know it's 3 things that's like crazy. I was doing in 3s. The transition from the music to the art, and then the art to the live art.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know what? Let me finish off the somebody approached me at a goth club for Roderick's Chamber.
And where is that?
It was on 2nd and Harrison in the city, or like that kind of area near the bridge.
And this was during the Cliffs and Bridges era where you were, so you're going to goth clubs during that time?
Yeah, Sean and I were going all the time. a scout approached me and asked me to model for this like Sony thing. So I went and then I did that. And then after that, I did a few runway things as well. Still doing music, doing more and more painting again, which corresponded to that all. Like, so now we're kind of transitioning out from like the modeling stuff into more like going to my undergrad or university, whatever you want to call it. I think I met my wife then at that time, and I was just painting a lot and still doing music. That was a whole. The time scale on this is a little strange. So Clips and Bridges, it doesn't really end, but we just kind of stop working on stuff, right? And we go out dancing a lot. We do all these things, and then slowly I started just going to like clubs like crazy, and I was like doing tons of drugs and everything like that, going out. And between that and kind of the goth stuff, that's where I met Mark, which was at a club as well. So I started doing music with him and this guy Dan Blomquist as well. And we've continually done music. Death Guild.
Death Guild. All right.
Yeah. Yes, and that's where I met Mark. And I don't remember where I met Dan. I think I met Dan through Sean when Sean was living somewhere in the Sunset. And so the other guy in the band was through that. And then that just kind of, Mark Wilson is his name. He had never done any kind of sound music stuff before, but like in all good things, like, oh, let's just try it. And so we did that, and that kind of went in parallel with everything else.
So tell me about the band and the type of style of music and your songwriting at that time, and also what you learned from Mark, who's an accomplished, amazing songwriter himself too, right? Like
sound person, yeah. Like really great sound and soundscapes, really amazing. I think what the word that was always used to describe us was cinematic. And I think, well, you could relate to this too. It's like movies have always been a huge influence on everything I do. Like when I did paintings, I used movies as reference. When I did music, I used the characters as reference. When I did music that was just instrumental, I would think about it like a soundtrack. So I think together we created that different kind of atmosphere. Mark was very much kind of oriented toward the kind of the very harsh, noisy stuff. And Dan much more to, it wasn't rhythm, but we'll say the foundation. And I was always more about the textures and the textures over this landscape. God, and we did stuff for so long too.
How many years did you guys jam out for?
10 plus.
Oh, yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't you guys like play some pretty big shows?
Yeah, we did. I think our biggest one is we played with Death in June, which is a neo-fascist band, but that is not.
That's neither here nor there.
That's not important right now. And I've always done my own stuff, weaving in and out throughout time.
Was it something that you were like, oh, I said what I want to say with this band, or is the band still going on?
The band's still going on. The only difference is what makes it difficult is Mark lives in Berlin. So ever since he moved to Berlin, it's been very hard. And Dan is, I don't know, he's in the city somewhere, and I talk to him every so often. But with COVID and everything and people's different philosophies, that's had a profound change on things. When I was in undergrad, I was in the painting department. and I did, painting throughout the whole thing. I was still doing 15 degrees below zero all through undergrad. So that was going on, and that went on till about maybe 4 years after is when Mark moved, after I graduated. And I took 2 years off, and I was still painting. I had a gallery that was representing me for like that time. And then I just ran out of things to say with painting. And it wasn't like I still love it, and I have this urge to maybe go back soon and start doing stuff again. But I just ran out of things to say, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go to video. So I applied for grad school, and then once I went to grad school, the first thing I did was go straight into video, because my paintings were all collages made out of film stills, so it just made sense.
What I got from it, you would send me some of your stills, and it was like almost, I don't know, the way I would describe it would be like someone, and I don't know if you're trying to do this or not, but I got like horror. I got dark horror, like,
oh yeah, 100%.
yeah, and I got that kind of like aggressive, like very dark kind of stuff onto it, you know, and that's all me. I love that kind of style and everything. And although the situations, if you look at the videos, you have the guy with the pineapple shirt who was like a reoccurring person in the videos, but it was still like very dark and very awesome. And that's something that like it sticks with you in a sense where you're just like, oh, whoa. And that's where I was like, oh, damn, dude, Mike is like doing some crazy shit,
Yeah, I mean, horror film was like the key to, it's still the key to everything I do. The Gallo Italian stuff, David Lynch, like kind of Douglas Gordon video art, really schlocky, like NC-17 X-rated horror, a big favorite of mine too. And it all kind of goes in there. So even my abstract stuff is all horror references. Like right now, I'm working with things based around witchcraft at the moment.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
I was kind of perusing your site, and I saw that like you had like certain like video comps that would have like a name, like it would say a quote.
Well, I guess, abstract out there, but sometimes that is utilized, and other times that's just an explainer because it's online, right? So people could see, or if I want to get a gallery or something like that. But I think a lot of the more abstract stuff is just representation of a film in a different way. So, or I should say representation. So like, if you look on there, I did Suspiria.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did is I just got rid of the whole Goblin soundtrack and everything. And then I mapped out each setting, and I recorded the equivalent out in the real world. So then I oh, they're in the place by the woods. So I would go drive to the woods and record that amount of time and then plop it in the movie. And if it was a room this size, I'd go to a room that size, plop it in. There's a scene where she's running to the red house and it's raining. I waited till it was raining, and I actually drove to a red house in the city and recorded.
Nice.
There. So like it was like this very literal kind of thing. So I make my own stuff, and then I also like to represent films in different ways too.
Yeah, and you definitely inspired me, man, because like there was like one thing I remembered that you did that I heard, and for a sound piece, because you're doing visual and you're also doing like the audio. Like I said, like that was really amazingly rad, and it like got me into like trying to do that kind of style. And then we wound up starting another band like called The Annoying for a little bit. That was like, I think kind of based on like kind of soundscape type things with like, with Leach and like me and you. And it was kind of like I think we did like a slobber reunion.
That's how it started. It was
and then like it didn't work out, or like Andy just didn't show up or something.
We were playing, and then and Andy showed up a couple times, and then he just just kind of didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, and he it probably was written for him what he wanted to say, So we just were like, well, fuck it. It was fun. We're gonna do stuff. So, but it was very different from Slobber. It was very like more soundscape, definitely, Mersereau influence, Mike Milk influence with like the backgrounds and like noise, and one of the coolest things I've ever worked on, definitely. And
It's got like a pop element to it too. That's kind
yeah,
of there.
yeah, it was like poppy
Weird.
as well. There are certain things that was old school, like like Pink Flag. You know what I mean? Like kind of style.
Wire was definitely a big reference for a lot of people.
Yeah, like
totally got a Wire edge to it for sure.
I would say like that was one thing that got me wanting to record, and you got me into the cool like websites like like freesound.org and like those things where you're like, oh hey, you can capture this sample and do the sample here and all that. Like you were even doing like Morse code for certain songs on the Annoying and things like that. Like
exactly, yeah. It was part of the sound pieces I made. So it just kind of translated back into these things. It's like, oh yeah, I translated subtitles of a movie into Morse code. Morse code has a rhythm, so why not make a beat out of Morse? Like this, like they were just tools, or where it's like I need to make something quick. I have this tool there. So the same punk philosophy is like, okay, 3 chords, good enough. But using my own, because I wrote the software that does the translation, because I needed to make something that would translate like basically a whole book. But it has a nice, and you can change the tones. So it fits well into making music.
All that bass is from the Annoying, like when we used to every Sunday, right? We would go into your little like Oakland place that was on International and 13th. Where was that?
35th, I think.
35th, back when it was like pretty intense. Cause like I remember leaving there with Leach and we would see like, hookers, drug dealers. It'd be like, the real like, body like line on the ground where we'd pass by things. Like crazy shit would happen. Like, didn't you told me that I think that you got robbed a couple times there.
Oh no, never there. I was here near downtown Oakland, actually.
Oh, so where you're at now is where?
Yeah, where I'm at now. The cops, and they still do this, they drive around and like Fruitvale with those like, those like wrap sunglasses that like they grab, a lot of like rednecks wear them. Like they just riot in there, and like, how like white cops shave their heads because there's nothing more terrifying than looking like.
Exactly. I never got that too. I never got that.
So they sit there and they wear a thing and they just like look at everybody and they mug everybody. It's just like, oh. Like they're the same as the gangster guys. Like they're the same people. They just drive by each other and there's something figured out. And so it doesn't surprise me that anything's going on there. The only thing that kept that neighborhood safe was actually the fact that there was prostitutes there. Always safe in that area. I never felt in danger. I went to Mexico City. I came back. I got robbed the day after in Oakland.
So the Annoying was playing. We're playing. We played a couple of shows.
Played 4 shows, I think.
There was a label that we were on.
Edgetone.
Edgetone, that's right. Edgetone. I remember Canada.
Right, which is
so that's when Canada started, right?
Exactly. So then I went there and lived there, like for, I don't know, like I think I was there like a year and a half permanently, but I've been back and forth. I was back and forth for like 3 years. It was a really great experience. I really enjoyed it up there. Really, like I did lots of art up there and stuff like that. And even though like my relationship ended, I built a relationship with people in Montreal that was like great.
So, but like in Canada, so you were paid to go to Canada, no?
Often, yes. I found this weird niche about being a programmer for artists. That's all it came down to. Is like I could do software programming and video things for other artists who do that. And the way it works in Canada is like people actually get money from the government, like for their projects. And a lot of these artists actually know how to do all this stuff. But since they got the money, they want to focus on the work itself. So what they do is they hire me as a contractor and they go like, okay, this is like the program I want to do. And then they give me the thing and I'm like, okay, I could write that for you. And then I do that. They pay me either by the hour or sometimes I would just get like a big flat chunk of money. And I just found this weird little niche.
So when did you teach your first class? Was it during this time or was it in the past?
I would say it was more, see, I was a TA at Mills. So I taught a class as a TA. So that would probably be my first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What made you want to become a teacher? And two, how was it on your first day?
It was great. I mean, I always, I've always connected with the students really well. The first day was like totally fun. Like I've just always felt very comfortable teaching in front of a class. Like I've never, I mean, obviously there's been times where I didn't do a good job and there are times where I did great jobs, but I've never felt uncomfortable.
Really?
Yeah. You get a little nervous before for the first class and stuff like that when you meet the students. But you know what it is? It's like performing. You got to go into that space, right? You go into that space and you do the thing that you're hired to do or you're performing for in some kind of way. And I'm not playing like a totally different character or anything like that, but I know that I'm in teacher mode and I need to learn from the students, like who they are, what they are working with, where they're going. So it's a very, like, it's an intimate space, even though there could be like 30 students or so.
So you started as a TA and then you became your own full-on teacher.
That's right, yeah. And I'm what's called an adjunct teacher, which means I work anywhere. It's a very, very unstable job.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. So because you'll have a class for a full year, and some people will have a class at one university, and then they'll have an art class at a different university, and they'll be doing this at the same time. And right now I don't have any classes, but I'll be teaching at City College this coming semester.
Do you feel like you're paying it forward to other artists, like kind of like saying, hey, you know what? Art is something that was like important and helped me through stuff and I'm bringing it forward? Or is it just more like, oh, you guys all have your stories. I'm just here to try to like tell you it's okay pretty much.
Yeah, I think that you guys have your stories. One, I mean, obviously I do have this somewhat mentor aspect as well, but I like to guide that through to what the student is feeling and going for. Mainly because like there's styles that I personally don't like, but that student, it suits them. And so I have to be able to like think outside of my own personal biases during those moments and like go like, oh, where are they? What are they looking for? How can I help them realize like who they are the best I can? So I guess like, I really try to go to each individual and see if there's something that they don't see themselves, but they're making aware to the class. And there's this weird saying like your mistakes are the thing that is your style. It goes something like that. So I kind of find within the student, like they keep coming back to this. There's like these psychological spaces a lot of them go to, and I like to really look into that and find out what material will help them develop and bring that out. And then I also love to bring that class together, as you kind of said, like a tribe, like a small collective, and get like a good bond so that there's a trusting place where we can all go and talk about each other's work.
Man, so what else going on with you right now, man? Like what's the new things going on?
I'm working with the subject matter, I should say. I'm working with the witchcraft. Well, I've been really into it, and I just watched like Rosemary's Baby is one of my favorite. I really love this idea of the witch being evil again. I mean, there's like the feminist analysis of what the witch means, and I'm really interested in that like idea of the witch being like this kind of like from a right wing person or somebody who's hyper moral, like they must create the witch so they can get away with doing what they're going to do to people. I'm super interested, similar to how Goya, the painter, represented witches, is that like we create the witch so that we can do harm to people. So if we create something that's absolutely morally reprehensible and evil, then and supernatural, then what we do to a living person is justified. Like QAnon's a good example. Like, oh, people are like blood sucking. Like basically it's all anti-Semitic tropes, but it's the Democrats instead, right? And stuff like that. But like it's a satanic panic, a witchcraft. And that kind of existence makes it so that they can just shoot somebody or, torture somebody or, have a coup. Like there's all these things, and the way that they have to create a justification for it. And by creating something that has way more power than them, then you're actually defending oneself. It's like the same way like white supremacists create like the replacement theory. There's this whole grand scheme, to replace us, and it's like practically magical. So therefore it's okay if, I don't know, with like keep people out of power or whatever like crazy thing that has never gone away that they're redoing again. 5G antenna, which has this magical property that like can cast things upon you. Like the antenna is like the wand, and it like creates this like thing over you, and like now we have to fight it because it's like we're not even in control of it, and there's no way a human being could be responsible for that. It has to be magical. It has to be supernatural. Like everything needs to be supernatural. And like anti-Semitism or anti-blackness, if they are supernatural, then killing them is not a problem.
I didn't want to like have this conversation without mentioning one of my favorite things you've ever done, which is called the S's, or is it just S's?
Just S's, yeah.
Okay, and I know you're saying you're trying to downplay it, but man, tell me about that.
Oh yeah, well the people that started it, it's this married couple, Kelly and Kevin, and I actually went to school with Kelly in university. Her and her husband were starting a new band, and then she asked me if I wanted to play guitar for it. And we had been kind of flirting about this idea of me playing guitar for them for some time. And this time around, I'm like, sure, okay, let's do it. It was two guitars, and I guess you could call me the lead, but I was doing noise, kind of more Sonic Youthy kind of stuff over it. And it was like a total goth death rock band too. And then Kelly's voice is amazing on top of that. In a way, I tuned my guitar in this weird way too. And so I tuned it in a way so I could just have like a slide on it. Like a slide guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I didn't need to worry about the chord, right? It was just kind of. And if I want to make it a bit different, I can angle it. It was different than how we are, when we play. We're like second dot, first dot,
I'm all about the dots, man. That's the easiest thing.
I remember we played a show. Where was it? And this has to do with S's too.
Good, because I was going to say, no, go back to the S's.
Yeah. Because like in S's, I move around across different things, but because I have so much distortion on everything, and the tuning's so weird that if it's off, it sounds right. But it was annoying. We were playing a show at the Knockout, I believe.
Oh no.
Not that one. A different.
Oh, a different one. Okay.
Yeah, it was the second time we played at the Knockout, and it was one of our newest songs that we still haven't ever recorded. And one of the notes is totally off that we play in it, but that's just how we do the song.
I was gonna say, aren't all of them off?
Yeah. No, who was it? He's in that whole scene as well. But he's like totally just kind of like not like he just looks like he's always gonna beat you up. After we played, he came up to me and he's like, "Yeah," he's like, "Do you remember me?" I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna bring this back to S's.
Yes.
To the mistake, and then
What's the mistake?
So we were playing a show, right? Like the annoying,
Mm-hmm.
and then that guy came up to us, or and we have that one note that's like very purposely wrong, where it's down, down, like it's a very, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Good. That was the wrong note though, right there." Whoa. I'm like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be. He's like, it's out of tune. Like one of the things that I brought into S's was that bad note, but times many.
And that's why you're not in the band anymore.
It's exactly.
Weren't you gonna play like a crazy ass show with them?
Oh, we were supposed to open for I don't know what it was. It was like some big 80s band that was supposed to play and then they canceled.
I forgot who, but I remembered it was someone big. I was like, oh damn.
Someone big, yeah. And I can't remember because they canceled.
But they weren't as big as the S's.
No, well, we ended up being the biggest band there.
Yeah, exactly. How'd that show go? Did it go good?
It was a good show. It went really well. Yeah, it was like a very empty place because who the fuck was that band?
Guns N' Roses.
No. It wasn't
Madonna.
No, it was something like a Echo and the Bunnyman level.
No, it wasn't them because I wouldn't care about that.
No,
it was someone that was big. They were bigger than them. There were more men without hats, I think, or something like that.
It wasn't Simple Minds.
No, it wasn't Simple Minds. Because I would have went to that show. Wait, I gotta take off my glasses to look at mine. Because I have notes, actually, here.
Oh.
Here's my notes. So the last thing I wanted to check out was, what is going on with the broom video that you're supposed to be making?
That is doing so good. It's an amazing video. It's so good. It's so good.
What is your favorite Mike Milk song?
I think my favorite song I did, again, is a song that I have to re-record, which I'm working on, actually. I actually even have to rename it. That's how. I know how it goes, and I know the melody, and I've almost figured out most of the guitar parts, but I have the melody.
That doesn't sound like a favorite song to me.
It is. Okay, how about this? Let's send you to a song that's actually you could look at. What's the name of it? It's also one I had to rename because there was no title involved. It was one of the songs. It was found because Spencer, of all people,
oh shit, Spencer
had a copy of that tape.
Spencer of Vulgar Pigeons, by the way.
Correct. He had a copy of that tape. It's Not the End of the World, Mary. And then, hold on one second. That was all me, and that was probably 2001.
That was not all you. Who was the other vocal?
That was me too.
What?
Tell me, yeah. That was me and my feigned British accent going there.
Holy crap! That's awesome.
I played them live maybe twice.
So this is under what name?
18 frames per second.
So we still gotta do shots. Do you have time to do one more round?
A round of shots? I don't have
Well, the quick shots, meaning the questions.
Sure.
Alrighty. What is your favorite pizza topping?
Jalapenos.
Worst concert you ever played or saw?
Played. It was us at the Knockout because of that bartender.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Is there anything from your past that you regret?
We don't have enough time
Do you know what your life purpose is?
to make.
What is the happiest memory that you have?
It's not a shot, obviously, for you right now.
These are shots.
Yeah.
Some people would rather take shots than answer these questions. That's
Yeah.
the thing. But they're tough, but they're fun. That's why I call them quick shots. Just the first one that pops in your head.
I'm thinking about the time a long time ago I brought the movie Begotten to everybody and I killed the party.
Oh, I love The Begotten.
Yeah, that was
Do you realize I actually bought the VHS that was at Anderson's? That was at that one that you
you
probably
got it?
rented.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's when I rented and showed everybody.
I bought that the second I knew they were going out of business. I went there and bought that and the Black Flag video VHS there because I knew that people would go and get those too. So I got those too, and then I got like half their library after that. But like those are the two that I went right away and got. The Begotten and the because I still have it. It's right there. All right. Well, what's your worst fear?
Being trapped in a confined space.
What is the most important lesson you learned from your last relationship? And it could be your current one too.
Is from and now is to how to be on equal ground with somebody.
Are you more of an introvert or an extrovert?
Introvert.
What in life are you most passionate about?
I think the work I do as an artist, along with cinema.
Who or what inspires you?
The ending scene from Rosemary's Baby.
What is your greatest strength?
My creativity, probably.
I agree. What is a lesson that life tried to teach you, but you feel you didn't learn?
How to be responsible with money.
What in your life do you feel the most grateful for?
I'm pretty grateful I have lots of people around me to support me for the weird things I do. A lot of people don't get that.
What is a life lesson that you learned recently?
Don't hide disappointment or criticism of something.
What's something you can't live without?
Movies.
Is it more important for you to love or be loved?
It used to be loved, and now it should be in the middle of both.
What is something you would do if you knew you wouldn't fail at it?
I probably wouldn't do it.
Is there anyone in your life that you wish you had a better relationship with?
You know, I think that goes along with something I've learned.
When's the last time you cried and why?
You know, I don't cry often. And I don't know how much of it's gendered, but you know, I can tell you, the movie Totoro makes me cry a lot.
What is a quality that you have that you try to not let others see?
The way I use money.
What's the greatest challenge you're facing in your life right now?
I think career advancement.
Is there any way I can support you in overcoming that challenge?
You did by having me on a podcast.
Is there something that you think is impossible to look good while doing?
Oh, this is something I can tell you off the bat when you don't ask me the question. That I don't look good while doing, or people in general?
You don't look good doing.
I mean, there's a long list. I don't know where to start.
What song will you be playing in 20 years that will make you seem really old?
Well, I'm already playing songs that are 20 years old that make me seem old. When I'm playing Britpop songs, it'll be those again.
Lastly, with the shots, what do you think of the younger generation today?
I think they're pretty great. Yeah. I think they got so much better head on their shoulders than the last two generations, I could say. There's no like delusion. Nobody like, I mean, I know we have these like critiques about like, I don't know, whatever, like TikTok or stuff that will be like, this and that. But that's just us being like, get off my lawn. Like, that's just us like not getting it. But like, I mean, when I think about my niece, like she's just so like, just like on it. And like everybody I know her age, they're on it and they have a plan. And I think, I wonder if maybe the time they live in is so much more chaotic that you have to have a plan. So, I mean, maybe I have hope for this generation because they weren't given hope. And maybe that's from that hope is stronger because you have to make it. So, I mean, that's a long way of saying something, but yes, I'm confident with this generation coming.
Dude, Mike, brother, ally, brother in arms, like straight up, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this process. I know it's kind of a pain in the ass to like have a camera in your face and talk and stuff, but
I teach
I
like
greatly appreciate it. And everything. And like definitely stick around because after this I want to still talk to you if you have time to do it and everything. But like yeah, appreciate it.